Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Two NYPD officers were shot and wounded by a Venezuelan migrant in Queens.
But first, we have the latest on the two New York cops wounded in a shootout with a teenager who was on a moped in Queens. And good evening, everyone, at 5 o'clock. I'm Bill Ritter.
I'm Sandra Bookman in for Sade. The shooting in Queens comes in the midst of an apparent NYPD crackdown on criminals using scooters and mopeds to make their getaway.
Today, cheers as the two wounded cops left the hospital less than 6 hours after the shootout with a 19-year-old migrant from Venezuela.
Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett live in East Elmhurst with our lead story. NJ?
And right, Sandra, what you mentioned about that crackdown, you know, what happened here last night, overnight, was a direct result of that crackdown. The officers spotted a young man on an e-bike driving in the wrong lane, driving the wrong way. They decided to pull him over, and they found themselves in a gunfight with a 19-year-old man wanted for robbery. In the middle of 23rd Avenue, spent shell casings, a semi-automatic pistol, and an e-bike. The 19-year-old robbery suspect was taken into police custody with a bullet wound in his foot. The two officers survived. 26-year-old Christopher Abreu struck in the leg, wheeled from the emergency room barely 6 hours later by his partner, Richard Yaruso, also 26, saved from a bullet wound in his abdomen by his body armor.
Our officers responded with a level of discipline, a level of focus, a level of professionalism. And today we thank God.
It happened at 1:40 this morning in East Elmhurst. The officers were wounded after chasing down the suspect. After he ditched the bike and took off on foot, investigators say he turned and fired on them.
The officers began a foot pursuit which led for several blocks. During the pursuit, the suspect fired multiple rounds at our officers, who then returned fire.
Police officials said the suspect's last known address was a nearby motel, serving as a shelter for migrants. Identified as 19-year-old Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, a recent immigrant from Venezuela. Few seemed to know him, telling reporters that he had not lived there in several weeks.
Similar scooters and bikes are being used citywide to commit crimes. These crimes include shootings, robberies, and phone snatches.
In fact, NYPD detectives believe Castro Mata is the young man in blue, pictured here with two other suspects, wanted for stealing purses from women in Queens a month ago.
We have over 80 robbery patterns citywide involving incidents where the perpetrators are riding motorized scooters or motorcycles. That's over 80 robbery patterns alone, encompassing over hundreds and hundreds of incidents.
And those numbers are staggering. Robberies by thieves on motorcycles and e-bikes are up 400% over last year. As for the suspect in this case, I'm told he remains hospitalized. Charges against him have yet to be announced. Much more on the numbers and this surprising modus operandi coming up on Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock tonight. We're now live in Queens, and Jay Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Now, in this alleged incident, NYPD officers Richard Yaruso and Christopher Abreu were investigating a robbery pattern involving crooks on illegal mopeds and scooters when they spotted the suspect, Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, riding without a helmet on a one-way street the wrong way. And as the officers tried to pull the 19-year-old migrant who had entered the country illegally over for a stop, he then hopped off the scooter and ran away. And as he was running away, one of the officers chased behind him on foot and another followed in a police cruiser, and eventually they managed to stop Bernardo Raul Castro Mata and tackle him to the ground. Now, as the police officers were looking to try to restrain Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, what he allegedly did was reach inside his crossbody bag that was across his chest, pulled out a firearm, and fired one shot at Officer Yaruso point blank range at his chest, and then shot Officer Abreu in the thigh. However, even though both officers were shot, they were able to restrain the suspect, and as they were able to restrain the suspect, they were able to arrest him. And as they arrested this migrant who entered the country illegally from Venezuela to Eagle Pass, Texas last July, they soon found that he had a whole bunch of credit cards that he had taken in multiple other possible gunpoint robberies that are committed by scooter riding thieves. And they also managed to, again, be able to find that he had gone out here and participated in other possible robberies, such as one at a Lot Less store in Queens. He fled on the same scooter, allegedly, that was seen in that previous robbery. Now, the NYPD sees the alleged actions of Bernardo Raul Castro Mata as a disturbing, isolated incident. But when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior of Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and it also fits what I talk about as related to the behavior of what I call the children of the corn. And when it comes to the children of the corn, whether they be American-born or they be people who entered the country illegally, like Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, who came to America from Venezuela through the El Paso Pass, these individuals basically have been raised in a dysfunctional fashion as related to life and do not know how to respect the authority of people like police officers. And since they don't understand how to respect the authority of individuals, when you do things like go out here and don't establish boundaries like those created at our border, what this does is enable and embolden these individuals to escalate their behaviors, to continue looking to commit more violent crimes, because there is no authority figure established to hold these individuals accountable. And that's what happened here in the case of Bernardo Raul Castro Mata. When he went out and crossed the border illegally, he saw one boundary that he could break because nobody set a boundary for our border. And with the national border boundary being one that wasn't set by President Joe Biden as related to our border, this basically enabled and emboldened Bernardo Raul Castro Mata to believe that he didn't have to follow the laws of the federal U.S. Constitution. And as he was bussed all the way to New York City and came to New York City, he further believed he didn't need to follow the laws as related to the sanctuary city that had been established by Blue Party members and New York Mayor Eric Adams. Now, New York Mayor Eric Adams made the work of police officers just that much harder in his quest to virtue signal to Texas Governor Greg Abbott and create a covert contract with Blue Party President Joe Biden. He made that just that much harder because if these individuals who entered the country illegally don't have to follow the laws at the federal border, then when they get to a place like a sanctuary city, they believe they don't have a reason to follow the local laws of the state or the city. And sadly, the cream of wheat man, Eric Adams, can't really connect those dots as related to why you see lawlessness from many of these migrants who are coming across the border and coming to form gangs here in New York, gangs that basically are running around on illegal, unregistered scooters and running around on these illegal, unregistered scooters, participating in robberies where they either go out here and look to snatch items off of people like their purses, or are looking to go and use these scooters as a quick getaway after they go out and participate in robberies. All of this is being done by these individuals because we have state and local politicians who are more interested in looking to virtue signal and show how they are not racist, like presidential candidate Donald Trump, and looking to show how they are going to be so inclusive and tolerant by looking to give these people who entered the country illegally and broke the laws of the country as related to immigration a chance to have a life here in America. And even though people like Eric Adams have gone out here and used city tax dollars to provide individuals like this Bernardo Raul Castro Mata all of the amenities, such as a hotel to stay in, and all sorts of things like a free cell phone and and even debit cards that are given to individuals. Again, these individuals have been given everything as related to things to give them a better life than even most homeless individuals, and even our homeless veterans, people who serve this country. People who serve this country are not even provided these kinds of amenities, but Eric Adams gave these individuals, like these migrants, all of these different things, and instead of them looking them to use to build the so-called better life that they had, that then they said that they wanted here in America, instead of looking to build a better life, what they're looking to do is make the quality of life worse here in New York for New Yorkers. And what's really sad about this entire case is that Bernardo Raul Castro Mata was basically given a way into this country because the judge wound up dismissing his case as related to asylum. And this individual basically, when he was given a free asylum, instead of looking to build that better life he said he wanted, he looked to go out here and make other people's lives here harder here in New York City. And this whole case is a major egg in the face of the cream of wheat man, Eric Adams, because again, he was the one who went out here and virtue signaled for individuals like this, saying that they needed a chance, and they needed a chance to get and build a better life, and that they would basically appreciate the sanctuary that was given to them by these sanctuary cities. But it's clear that this whole sanctuary city policy that was established by cities like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Denver is a complete failure. And it's a complete failure because this whole policy of sanctuary city is not really giving asylum to people who are dealing with situations like oppression or war, or even looking to escape a nation that's basically falling apart. What we're getting are individuals who really don't want to go out here and take that opportunity to build a better life. No, they want to tear the life of New Yorkers down and tear down the quality of life of New Yorkers, because the entire sanctuary city policy basically gives sanctuary to individuals without any sort of vetting. And that's why the whole process of migrants and people who enter the country illegally needs to be under the jurisdiction of ICE, Immigration's Customs and Enforcement, because Immigration's Customs and Enforcement, their job is to vet individuals like this to make sure that they don't come into a country and go out here and shoot police officers, because when somebody is actively looking to shoot a police officer, it clearly shows that that individual does not respect the authority of the laws of the law enforcement in that country that they have immigrated to, and they don't respect basic male authority and male authority figures. And that really shows a real serious problem that's becoming a trend with a lot of these migrants. There's a group of these migrants that basically they're coming to the country. They have no respect for male authority or authority figures like police officers, because this is the second incident, or I would say the third incident, where we've seen a migrant attack a police officer. And that really shows, again, the complete failure of the sanctuary city and why local jurisdictions should not be out here dealing with individuals as related to immigration, and even the state shouldn't be dealing with individuals as related to immigration, because we need to set the boundary at the federal level first, because when people see that the boundary is set at the federal level first, what that does is send a message to the migrant that they are going to have to be accountable to the federal government, and if they behave out of line, what will happen to them is that they will be accountable to ICE, and ICE will deal with them and possibly deport them if they wind up participating in felonies such as looking to attempt to murder a police officer. And that's what we need. Unfortunately, here in New York, we had dysfunctional far-left politicians under the de Blasio administration look to create dysfunctional sanctuary city laws that say a person basically cannot be turned over to ICE even though they commit a crime. Now, this policy established by Bill de Blasio was completely backwards and was looked to give people asylum, but Bill de Blasio didn't really understand that this whole policy would be a safety threat to New Yorkers and a safety threat to police officers, because this is why we have the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution, because the Supremacy Clause makes it where you have to be able to acknowledge the authority of the federal government over state and local governments, and you have to give federal organizations their authority to be able to do their business. But Bill de Blasio created this unconstitutional law as related to sanctuary cities, and this is the reason why individuals like Bernardo Raul Castro Mata can come to New York and basically look to shoot police officers and participate in a series of suspected crimes, because Bill de Blasio and his ideals didn't see the reality. And even worse, Eric Adams and the city council refused to repeal these unconstitutional laws, and that's why we've got chaos in the city, where you've got migrants who are out here and believing they can go out here and shoot police officers and attack police officers, because we have politicians whose heads are on up their asses and cannot see the reality as related to individuals like this who go out and participate in alleged crimes like this where they shoot a police officer. And again, it's all due to the backwards policies established by the Blue Party as related to sanctuary city laws that guys like Eric Adams say that they cannot do anything about, when it's clear all you have to do is take this to federal court, and the U.S. Supreme Court would basically just strike these sanctuary city laws down as unconstitutional, because under the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, the federal organizations like the Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement have jurisdiction over cities and states, and their jurisdiction is superior, and that basically ends the whole concept of sanctuary city laws that put New Yorkers' lives in jeopardy, laws that clearly are shown to fail, but many in the Blue Party that Eric Adams and the City Council are a part of don't want to admit these policies are a failure, even though they are putting the lives of police officers in jeopardy. And that just shows how backwards the Blue Party is as related to their approaches to this whole migrant crisis that they basically created, a migrant crisis that they created that's putting police officers' lives in jeopardy, and a migrant crisis that is showing us that why we needed Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement in their position to do their jobs, and how they need support as related to doing their jobs and being able to vet individuals like this Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, so that they are not able to come into the country and join gangs that would terrorize New Yorkers like people in Venezuela are terrorized by individuals like him. Now, Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, after allegedly shooting these two police officers, is now currently in jail, being held without bail on assault charges, criminal possession of a weapon, and resisting arrest, and obstructing governmental administration, and is about to possibly face up to 80 years in prison if he's convicted. And if he becomes a permanent resident of the New York State Penitentiary, he may possibly wind up having to, while he doesn't have to, he believes he doesn't have to respect the authority of the federal government as related to the border, or respect the authority of the NYPD here in New York. He will be forced to respect the authority of the COs and the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, as they basically show him how the American penal system works, as they trade him for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand apple juice, off-brand grape drink, off-brand orange drink, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, sriracha sauce, packets of soy sauce, Hunt snack pack puddings, Kit Kat candy bars, prison chips, packets of tuna, packets of beef, packets of chicken, and summer sausage. And after they finish putting the sriracha sauce on the summer sausage and wind up getting into the front side and the back side of Dude, he will come in and meet Senor Sprinkles, and Senor Sprinkles will be spraying a special sauce all over the front side and the back side, and then splitting the cheeks open and calling all the folks of Cell Block D to check out his backside, looking like the inside of a glazed donut. And after being humiliated by all of the inmates in the American prison, he will then have to suffer the indignity of washing the skid marks out of the jockey drawers of Mr. Sprinkles with a toothbrush, and that's where this migrant will regret ever coming to America looking to commit crimes, because the American the American penitentiary is one of the worst places you want to be. And this guy basically went out here and traveled thousands of miles, basically looking to, again, prey on people. And now he's going to be preyed on, possibly, once he's convicted in the penitentiary. And it's really sad to see a dude basically, again, travel all the way from Venezuela to America to just wind up losing his freedom. But this is what is happening now. And again, it's happening because we have politicians here in New York so caught up in their ideals that they can't see the reality of the whole migrant crisis that they created. A migrant crisis that they created that basically destroyed the quality of life here for New Yorkers. And it's all basically done because these blue politicians, again, wanted to virtue signal, that they wanted to, again, send a message to Donald Trump. But the message they're sending to New Yorkers is that their health and safety are nothing to them. No, the health and safety of New Yorkers is nothing to them as long as they fight for their ideals. And that's making life here for real New Yorkers just that much harder, because we have incompetent men like Eric Adams and incompetent women like Kathy Hochul running New York straight into the ground, because instead of looking to help our homeless veterans and help our homeless black New Yorkers, who are predominantly the majority population of homeless here in New York, they look to try to, again, virtue signal and say they're going to take care of migrants. And it's clear to us, as related to this case, some of them didn't want anybody to take care of their business, and they didn't want to build anything here in New York. And all of these individuals would have been better dealt with by Immigration's Customs and Enforcement, and would have been done far better by Immigration's Customs and Enforcement, who would have had the resources to deal with these individuals. But many said ICE was racist. But I have to ask the critical question: is it racist to go out here and deny people like Jordan Neely the same debit cards that Eric Adams wanted to give illegal migrants? I mean, Jordan Neely could have he was hungry and desperate, looking for some help. He couldn't get that. But an illegal migrant who came here and got all the amenities didn't appreciate what he got, and basically is showing us all here in New York City that you cannot give asylum to people who are basically who don't want it. And when you have inmates running the political asylum, it creates chaos in the city. Now, if you want to learn why so many individuals like this wind up on a dysfunctional life paradigm that leads to them winding up with a life that winds up a complete failure, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about the migrant crisis, which is turning into a man crisis due to the incompetent leadership of Eric Adams, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.